the series on the parts of the IEP. Today we're going to talk about the present levels of performance. What are the present levels of performance? Well, it's the part of the IEP where we talk about how the child's doing right now. We talk about how the child is presently performing. If you really look at the language in some of these titles and phrases, they kind of explain what we're talking about. So present levels of performance is oftentimes abbreviated, and sometimes those abbreviations will drive us bonkers. So I'm going to tell you what it is. It's PLOPS. We either call it PLOPS or PLAPS, present levels of performance. Now, what do we talk about in present levels of performance? Well, we talk about academic progress and we talk about functional progress. So the academic progress typically refers to how the child is doing in reading, writing, and math. It can include information about other subjects, but usually we're talking about those three things. Now, when we talk about functional performance, we're talking about the things that help us function in day-to-day life other than those academic skills. Things like communication skills, how we interact with other people, how we understand other people, how we express our wants and needs. Those are our communication skills. We might also talk about the child's behavioral skills or motor skills. And finally, we're going to talk about activities of daily living. Those are functional skills that talk about what the child does in day-to-day life. Sometimes we call activities of daily living an acronym, ADLs. We're talking about toileting, ability to make meals, ability to get dressed. All of those things are activities of daily living, things that we do in day-to-day life. So ADLs are functional skills. Functional skills are discussed in the present levels of performance. So are academic skills. Now, our present levels of performance should be written very objectively. We should not have subjective information like something that comes from an opinion of a teacher or a related service professional. We should have data on not only the current or the old goals, but we should also have baseline data on suggested new goals. Now, sometimes baseline, that word baseline, will throw people for a loop. So let's talk about what baseline data is. That's the data that the teachers or the related service professionals might have been taking while they're thinking about a new goal for a child. Maybe a child has met a goal. Maybe a child is not progressing on a current goal, and so we need to tweak the goal, or we need to go in a different direction. Well, the related service professional or the teacher can start to take some data on an anticipated new goal, and we call that baseline data because it tells us where we are before we have any intervention, or when we've got just a little bit of intervention, before we've made it an official goal. So we can include that information so that we can track the progress from there. We can see how the child does once the child starts to get some instruction on that particular skill. So we want it to be objective, and we want to include the old data on the old goals as well as some baseline data on the proposed new goals. Now, I'm going to tell you one thing about present levels that really bugs me. And it's when they are written in a way that looks like the skill or the lack of the skill is within the child's control. Oftentimes we have this in behavior, and it will say something like, well, when Johnny wants to perform, he will do well. Or if he feels like sitting down, then he will. And what bothers me about that is that it acts like it is within the child's control to sit down. And we know very oftentimes that the child might be impulsive or might have some kind of sensory regulation issue that is prohibiting the child from being able to sit down at that particular moment. So that's my tip of the day. Look for those things and rewrite them in a way that makes it look as if it's not within the child's control and that we're really working on it as a goal for the child and a way to improve.